Part of the bulletin, we shall be speaking about excessive or unnecessary use of force by the police in the last couple of weeks, really, since the general election of August 8th, particularly in the past couple of days following the countrywide protests against the re-election, or rather the take-two of the election, presidential election slated for October 26th. And I want to introduce to you my panel this evening. To my immediate right is Fatma Ali Saman, who is a board member with the Independent Police Oversight Authority. Many thanks for joining us this evening.
Thank you,
Fatma. And also joining me this evening is Daniel Juma Omondi, who's the Executive Director of the Kenyan chapter of the Global Peace Foundation. Many thanks for joining us this evening. And Fatma, I just want to begin with you because in the face of all this that is happening, there has been a lot of interest in the role of the Independent Police Oversight Authority, and particularly with the cases we've seen in the recent days. But let's just begin from when, the authority came to be, that is in June 2012, when the board was sworn in. Maybe talk to us about how many cases you have dealt with and how they have been concluded, if at all, administratively, punitively, or otherwise.
Yes, thank you very much. Since inception, we have tackled more than 8,000 complaints from the public and also from the police. We so far have dealt with about 593 cases, which are a good number. 90 of them are lying in the courts. And there's a lot of communication between us and the ODPP. Our processes are that once we receive a complaint or we move in to investigate on our own motion, once the investigations are complete, we hand over our work to the ODPP. The ODPP takes time to study and look at our case and either agrees with it or sends it back for further evidence analysis and any gaps seen. Then we now return again the cases once they are complete, and the ODPP would therefore now immediately start the prosecution process. So far, the case that is completed is only one, completely.
Out of the 8,000?
Yes, one in terms of which has gone through a court and has been finalized and a judgment has been made. The one on Kwekwe. But the cases that are complete are more than 400 because of the many other processes that have been undertaken. There are cases that from our side are complete and are lying at the ODPP, and there are cases that are complete even from the ODPP's side and are lying in courts. So this is what needs to be understood. IPOA cannot influence how the ODPP's office functions. It cannot also influence how the judicial service carries out its affairs. However,
so these are the weak links to the perceived...
Yes. However, you would appreciate, and this is compared to the international good practice, institutions that were established like our own. A very good example is the IPONI, the one on Northern Ireland, which was dealing with very similar cases like ours. Took about 12 years to complete their first case. Because investigation...
So are we benchmarking with the...
We are not. We are not really. We are not. But that's why I'm saying, with the 4 years that we are... 5 years we are in office, we've actually done so much by completing 593 already. Completion does not necessarily mean someone taken to court, arrested, and, judgment is made. There are so many other ways of which we complete cases. There are cases that are usually also referred to the Internal Affairs Unit when we feel it is relevant to do that. There are cases which we partner with the DCI, the Directorate of Criminal Investigation. There are cases that we are able to have an alternate dispute resolution, which we are able to resolve under usually small cases that don't involve issues of murder and serious injury.
All right. So what we're hearing is a lot of processes, a lot of partnerships with other institutions that then would otherwise slow the process. But what do Kenyans need to know? Kenyans who have this perception that there's this institution that is mandated with having that civilian oversight of what they see now to be a police force that is killing young people, that is killing innocent people, and have a lot of expectation from the institution.
Yes, Kenyans need to know that the institution is doing quite a lot. And there's a lot of progress in terms of discussions between us and the police and the leadership. What we are seeing out there is very unfortunate and very sad. And we have a very strong feeling that the purpose why IPOA was created was exactly because of what is happening right now. So we are taking our work very seriously. We had, in the initial years, we took about, let's say, about a year to first establish the offices. Remember, we are an institution that was starting from a scratch. We never had an institution like this type in this country. So we were barely starting from nothing. I remember the first time we were sworn in office, we didn't have even pens to write on.
Okay.
So we struggled with all that.
I will come to that.
Yeah, we struggled with all that.
Yeah.
And as we speak right now, we have remember, our work is not only to investigate complaints, but also to inspect police premises, which we've done over 700 of them, and we've given recommendations, and quite a number of them are already having impact. We have also monitored more than 90 police operations, and we have provided reports.
All right.
We've carried out also a lot of research.
We'll come to that. I want to engage Daniel a little bit. Daniel, working with an organization that, you know, is interested in peace building in the country. What is your observation about the current state of affairs with regard to how police are engaging with civilians who are out to protest, and what does it impact in terms of sustainable peace in the country?
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you. Of course, we saw the videos going around today in social media and in the media yesterday. It is very sad that could be happening in this country. And yesterday you saw in the UK where we saw Kenyans, you know, both supporters of Jubilee and NASA were picketing in the UK. You never saw a single police officer. You never saw a single tear gas lobbed at the Kenyans in the UK. And so fast forward to Kenya, and when the demonstrations were going on, you can see the police reaction, and whatever happened, it's very, very sad. It should be happening in a constitutional democracy such as ours. The role of the police is to maintain law and order. And as Kenyans, we appreciate that the police have a lot of, you know, problems, of course, dealing with such situations. And I can only remember one police officer whom I really have a lot of respect for. You remember Corporal Joseph Ndenge, when the 2007 post-election violence was happening. This is one police officer who negotiated with the rioters, and he pleaded with them, and he told them, we only have one country. Please do not spoil what it has taken us ages to build. I expect our police to be partners in building peace, because actually we need the police to be able to maintain peace, to maintain law and order. But I also appreciate that just like in any situation or in any organization, there are good or bad people. They are good or bad individuals. Yeah, so within the police, and I appreciate that IPOA is doing, you know, the job of investigating and pointing out the people who are doing the bad things within the service. We hope that this can be brought to book so that they don't spoil, you know, wholesale, you know, the name of the police. I also know that there's one inspector called Lena Rook. You know, I think in the year 2008, we worked with this branch called Peace Corps in the Rift Valley to be able to promote peace. So I know that within the service, there are good people within the service who actually want to stick, you know, to the Constitution, to the rule of law. But there are those bad elements which must be uprooted, and I'm hoping IPOA can be able to help us in that.
Maybe let's talk about that a little bit, because the police has actually pointed this to be an issue, that whilst the protesters may want to protest peacefully, there are few elements then who would are there for different interests. Is it such a huge challenge for the police in Kenya to be able to single out those particular ones that are there for different interests? Is this something you're also engaged in to find out whether there are mechanisms that they can deal with those particular individuals, even identify them?
True, the mechanisms are there very clearly. Sadly, at times police gets to ignore this. If you look at also the maturity of the citizenry in the way they behave when they, the example my colleague has given here in UK, where you found both sides were picketing, but none were either insulting the other side. We didn't see cases where they were kind of rowdious or insultive to each other.
Right.
They each expressed their positions in a very civil manner. I think on our part also as the citizenry, what is lacking is also that kind of behavior, where at times we know this is a very good opportunity that our Constitution has given us, and it is our right. We need to use it in the best way we can. It is important that the organizers of any protest engage the police very early, not to ask for their permission really, but to just give them a picture of what they want done, the routes they are going to use, the offices they want to go to, and who is going to lead, how they are going to be dressed, what they are going to be carrying. And also not carry anything more than placards, or anything that is going to look provocative or be used potentially as a weapon. This is the responsibility of the citizens. However, on the police, at times even when they come to ensure the safety during the protest, it's a bit worrying. They come overdressed. Sometimes you find the gear itself speaks a language that is not very convenient. Ready for battle. And that in itself can be also either over-policing or maybe trying to kill a fly with a hammer, which doesn't make sense. Is this a particular conversation that you have? Yes, we are engaging, and we have made several of those recommendations on especially public order management. It is really wanting in our country. What we have so much is the anti-riot. The anti-riot is very different from public. What Daniel just described.
And even on air now, we have the pictures from the case at the University of Nairobi.
Yes, what he described is a situation where you have negotiators, people who know how to deal with the public, people who mostly use psychology and intelligence to be able to control crowds and not force. There are times when using force is necessary, and the police also ought to prepare a unit that is going to be there for enforcement if force is required of whatever level. We know very well they would start with the lesser level of force, maybe also protect themselves. The protection gear is not a problem. It is not seen as provocative, but carrying guns immediately on the first row of the police who are coming to assist, because the purpose there is to make sure the protesters are safe, and also the other members who are not protesting are safe and carry their usual. You saw even in the UK, the business was usual, was as usual everywhere. The movement of transport, I'm sure shops were open. Nobody was going to interfere with other people's businesses. And police are expected to also make sure that businesses are not destroyed and that everybody is able to run their lives normally, as those who are unhappy protest and express themselves.
Okay, and Daniel, as a peace-building institution, are there specific corresponding roles that you play to institutions such as IPOA, perhaps investigations, or what role does institutions such as yours play in ensuring that the vision of the Constitution, when it's even reconstructed the look of the police force to be a police service, is actually achieved?
Yes, we have been in touch with the police. We have had several meetings with the Inspector General of the police. There was a time when we were actually training, and that was the time when Kopamdenge was in the GSU. We were actually going to the train where the GSU are being trained and talking to them about their role. We were letting the police know that actually they are the most important people in the state, because we have the Constitution, we have the laws. It is the role of the police to enforce that law. And that's why they're called the police service. And that is why they're called the disciplined forces. There's a reason why the police and the army are called the disciplined forces. It is because they are the ones. The people expect that they are the most disciplined people, that it is their role to enforce the laws that are being enacted by Parliament. So it is the legitimate expectation of citizens, you know, that the police will conduct themselves in a way that will protect them. We expect, like if you go to other countries like Korea, you know, whenever you see a policeman, whenever you miss your way, you feel, you know, that is the person you want to ask the road to go to this place. So the police is the friend of the person. But this is something that we don't know here.
It seems to remain an expectation and a vision of the Constitution. Exactly,
here. I remember when we were growing up, when you see a police in the village, you run away. When you see them coming with uniform, with guns, you run away. This is the image. The image of the police locally has been that of fear. When you see the police, you are afraid. You don't know whether he is going to charge you. You don't know whether he has come to arrest you. You know, so this is something we need. And I think going forward, we would like to continue, you know, the training. You know, if we can have trainings with the police, especially when you are training the recruits. As an organization, I think we are able to help you guys to be able to increase the ability so that the police can have that the skills that can be used to actually enforce law and order.
All right, and right now I want us to take a look at one of the clips that was making rounds on social media of that police officer who, you know, pounded on the border rider. If you can just get that to play so that we can talk about it, because there are questions about who's going to pay for that ride. Let's just take a look at it first.
Gai, hao watu wanaua watu. Huyu mtu amefanya nini anapigwa shwari? Gai amefanya nini?
Usikimbie bwana.
Hey! Yawa! Yawa! Gai!
Wewe, unafanya nini bana? Unajua ukisikia kelele hapa hivi. Ikete ni mwana bede.
Yawa! Yawa! Ai, wewe. Ai, yawa.
Kama wewe nyamaza utoke. Kwani wamefanya nini?
Hakuna.
Hao watu wanaribu pikipiki. Cheki. Amevunja hii nini hapa. Wekeza nakwambia hao ni watu, hao ni wanini? Wana damu bwana. Wewe hao watu jeshi. Si jeshi. Haya. Hapa. Si jeshi. Bwana nani kingine mali? Ndio makogi ni. Mimi naanza kuchukua kitambo. Usipige kelele hapa. Toa flash yoni basi. Usitoe flash. Usipige kelele.
Okay, so very unfortunate scenario we've seen there. And first of all, do such cases actually reach your case? Like this particular one. One would be interested to know whether this particular officer has been identified.
Yes, what IPOA does with these cases is they are considered as public interest cases. We don't even expect someone to complain because right now we are alive to the fact that there are protests going on and that the police will be on the road and some of these things are bound to happen. So we are already on the watch about it. So what most likely would be interested in knowing on our part in terms of investigation is to find out who these people were. Were they really police? Which units do they belong to? Who deployed them? What were they doing in that particular incident? Who was this person who you see riding on a motorbike and you don't know why they did what they did? So for us, unlike how the public would view it, for us
you have to go through a systematic approach.
We have to go through a very professional approach to find out the truth. And that's what exactly we are doing already with the same.
And you know, when the initial anti-IEBC protests began last year, in a bid to oust the Isaac Hassan-led commission, there was a lot of violence also experienced during that time and a lot of cases that were brought specifically to IPOA. And questions have been, because there actually is a particular journalist who was one of those who was affected and directly reported the case to IPOA, saying that up to now, no results have been seen?
What we had done with that particular case is we carried out our investigations. We processed the evidence at hand at that particular time. We had a contestation between us and the police about the CCTV cameras availability, and that's known, and I think it's in the public domain, that we are not in possession of the CCTV cameras, and we need to get those and help identify. The other one big challenge that we have, because of sometimes the unprofessional way police have a tendency of behaving, is that you want to find out who was deployed where. If it is a unit, then it's easy to find out who among this unit could have possibly done that. So some of this, there's a lot of usually back and forth and a little bit of, like there was nothing written down, or there are no particular orders, or if they are there, they're confidential. Those challenges are still there. However, we even had a sitting with the Parliamentary Committee on Internal Security, where we discussed that particular case, because we had intentions to release the report immediately. So we had done every bit, but we just wanted to get that CCTV and finalize and get to find out about the issues of deployment.
All right. Daniel, from where you sit, are we making strides, towards realizing a police service that, is just that, holds the public interest? And perhaps they do, but the way in which they manifest their duties is still an issue. And what would take us to that vision?
I think we're still a long way. If you look at the way they do policing and crowd management in Europe, in Korea, this is some of the, we have seen actually demonstrations. The other day you saw in Korea, there was a big, huge demonstration in Seoul that ended up in the dismissing of the president. But you never saw the police behave in such a manner. And looking at that video, actually, I don't want to believe those are police officers. I would like to believe, unless I'm convinced that those are criminals in police uniform. And I am hopeful that the IPOA and the Inspector General of Police will actually take action, because these are the people who spoil the name, the image that they have been trying to build. And the police commissioner, the police spokesman, is someone from my village. And I know he has been trying very much to speak and to let people know that the police is there to serve the people. But when you see such things happening, then really you have a lot of worries, And yesterday, in Bondo, we lost 3 young people.
Yes. In
Bondo. And I would like to send my condolences to the families of those 3. When you are controlling demonstrations, and the demonstrations that we have that are protected by Article 37 of the Bill of Rights, the police is actually supposed to protect the protesters, to be with the protesters and protect them, and at the same time protect the business people. So when you see people dying and people being shot, it is the police again failing in its duty.
Right.
So they need to understand what their role is. The police, it should not be about the police versus the people. The police are supposed to be with the people.
Right. Yeah. And Madam Fatma, the buck in all this stops with the Inspector General of Police. And there have been questions, or actually a particular question is, as an institution, are you able to investigate the IG himself, where there are cases where police officers actually have given reports of having their own internal kind of complaints. And there also have been thoughts that perhaps you cannot investigate the IG. So are you able to?
We are able to by law. We do have the powers. However, there has been no complaint so far about the IG in person. But what we will be addressing is, when you're in leadership, whatever happens under your watch, you can't run away from that responsibility. Because again, the law actually protects the officers not to undertake illegal orders. And there's also the element of personal culpability, where if a police officer gets to do something against the law, then he's held, or he or she is held responsible as an individual. And at that time, there's no more collective responsibility, as used to be the culture before. So that in itself is very transformational. And we are hoping that it is an opportunity for the IG to live up to the expectations of Kenyans. We appreciate and we know that we are going through hard times, but again, how the police behave and carry themselves will contribute a great deal on what happens in this country in the next few days and their own. Because again, we expect them to do their work very professionally. Observe the rule of law. Because again, you cannot have people who are expected to maintain law and order becoming disorderly and using excessive force or misbehaving. It is the biggest, the most important role right now that police need to know is that they're actually the face of government. And if they present it in a bad way, then again, they lose mandate from the citizenry. They lose respect, they lose trust. And for us, they're making the task harder for us because we would like not to spend a lot of taxpayers' money in addressing complaints.
Yeah.
We would rather they do their work the way it is supposed to be so that we can just complement and continue building that trust between the citizenry and the police.
All right, and very briefly, your closing comments, because our time is up, about what you tell Kenyans who, many of whom feel like Apoa is being a toothless dog, maybe because they have not seen any punitive actions towards particular officers. What would you say?
I would say that they shouldn't lose hope with IPOA. We are not yet an institution that we have a lot of credibility. We are carrying our work very professionally. Due process is painfully long, but at the end of the day, you get to the truth and you get to cases that can hold water. It is in our interest as Kenyans that we learn how to trust our institutions and give them the support, and we don't get disillusioned from the beginning. Because again, that hopelessness is what destroys institutions, and we do not exploit the opportunities available.
Fantastic. Closing remarks, Daniel.
Thank you. Mine is to let the people and the police know that they are our brothers. Actually, you know, everyone has a police officer who is a relative or a brother. Let them know that whatever is happening, we are still Kenyans. We are still one people. And right now we have a political contest going on. I expect them not to take sides. Do not take sides. You know, treat NASA and Jubilee equally. Just adhere strictly to the rule of law and to the Constitution, and we will be able to enhance the image of our police service.
All right.
Yeah.
Many thanks. Fatma Ali Saman is the board member with IPOA, and Daniel Juma Omondi is executive director at the Global Peace Foundation. Many thanks for joining me this evening to talk about this absolutely critical issue. And it's there that we wrap up this edition of KTN Weekend Prime. Many thanks for watching, and have yourself a splendid weekend ahead. My name is Sharon Momanyi. Our sign language interpreter has been William Silla. Have a good night.